we would start out. Now, you'll notice we have no soloist tonight, so it's a DIY Shabbat. That means you're all going to have to sing with me. So we begin with a little nigun. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la. So we want to touch base and check out how everybody's been doing. It was a little more rigorous this week than usual. It was a lot of putting up with sitting still or not going to work or not going to the store. And so it was a little bit more aggravating as a week. And I just want to check in. This is a time when we spend a lot of time thinking to ourselves. We have a lot of time to reflect. And that means that you all have thought about the good things happening in your life in the past week. And I'd love to hear what good and blessing has been happening to you. What have you got to report? Anybody on this side want to pipe up and say, I'm just glad or grateful for X or Y that happened? Please.
I washed my hair.
You washed your hair, right? No, I get it completely. I get it completely. Yes.
But Monday afternoon when the weather got bad,
Uh-huh.
not on the door.
Uh-huh. Ah. Right. All right. Yeah, he has yet to discover that a four-wheel drive just gets you in a ditch faster when it's icy. But okay, he imagines himself to be invulnerable. Yes, Richard.
I had the wonderful opportunity to have a Zoom call with my brothers.
Oh, very nice.
26 months.
Uh-huh.
It was delightful.
Very good. Yep. So yeah, sadly, my brother, who was planning to go to Antarctica on a cruise, has now, after almost 3 years, contracted COVID. So unfortunately, that is not the good and blessing I have to report. But I did spend a little bit of time on the phone consoling him. But maybe he'll be able to reschedule it. Who else has a good and blessing to report? Gil. Very good. Very good. And Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov. Yes, sir. It went amazing. That's fantastic. Actually having to perform something technical is kind of scary. So I'm glad it all worked out for you. Well, for me, being stuck in the house, I just started doing all the things to tidy the house that my wife didn't want me to do. She has her own list, but I focused on the things I wanted to do. And the big payoff of that was I found an Indian restaurant gift card that someone had given us over a year ago. And so today we got Indian food. So that was very exciting. That was a nice good and blessing. Anybody else have anything to share? Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, there we go. So we also want to acknowledge in the congregation the anniversaries. This last week, Yale and Lindsay Silverman celebrated their anniversary. And last week, we also celebrated a number of birthdays. Jacob Dubner, Ruth Dubner, Robbie Gelman, Adrian Harris, Aaron Messing, Maggie Watt, and Russell Weisbard all celebrate birthdays. So we want to wish them a mazel tov. All right. So with that, I think it's time for us to get our Shabbat started, and it's my privilege to invite up Brenda. And Paige, did you want to come up too, or you just want Brenda to come up? Yes, Brenda, would you come up and kindle Shabbat lights? Brenda's one of our hosts tonight. Yep.
Oh, you told me just like 15 minutes ago. Audio flame.
No, don't. This one's better. This one's better. It's just like a
Oh,
regular
okay.
lighter. Like that.
Okay.
So just give it a stiff tug. A stiff tug. Tug stiffly. There we go.
There we go.
Page 1, everyone.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted to each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
May God
May
bless
God
us with Shabbat joy.
May God bless us with Shabbat holiness, and may God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
Thank you very much. Need to help step down there. Now it is our time for Kabbalat Shabbat. We welcome the Sabbath into our community. We're going to be on page 2, and we're going to begin with Psalm 95, Lehune Ranena. Lehune Ranena, Lehune Ranena, Lehune Ranena, Ladonai. Lehune Ranena, Lehune Ranena, Lehune Ranena, Ladonai. Naria, Letzur Yishenu Nikadma Panav Betoda. Naria, Letzur Yishenu Bezim Rot Naria Lo. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena Ladonai. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena Ladonai. We turn now to Psalm 97 on page 4. Or Zuruach leTzadik v'yishrei lev simcha. Adonai reigns, let the land exult and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds surround God. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. And God's lightning illumines the world. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you who are righteous, rejoice in Adonai and acclaim God's holy name. We turn now to Psalm 29 on page 6. Havu l'Adonai b'nei elim, havu l'Adonai kavod v'oz, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. We come now to Lecha Dodi. Can I designate Don and suddenly Mark? Thank you, Mark. Mark to be our person opening the door. So Lecha Dodi on page 7. Wait until last stanza there. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmi'anu el haminuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shemo tiferet v'litila Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechul v'necha Hihi mekor habracha Merosh mekedem nisucha Sof ma'aseh v'makshevati la Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Hitori hitoruri Kiva ore kumi ori Uri shirda beri Kivod Adonai alai nigla. Please rise. Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Voi v'shalom hateret bala Gam v'simcha uzochola Toch emunei am sigula Boi chala Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela. So come in peace, you crown of your husband, with rejoicing and joy. To those who are faithful, a treasured people. Come, O Shabbat, come, O bride. We're going to turn now to page 9 for the Hatzi Kaddish to transition to our evening service. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uzman Kari Vimaru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'alam u'lalmei almaya Yitbarach Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitala shmei dekudsha le'la min kol bechata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran belma v'maru amen. If able, please rise. If you've fallen on the ice recently, you can say seed. Baruch et Adonai Hamgora, Baruch Adonai Hamgora, Le'olam va'ed. Ma'ariv Aravim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim. בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומבדיר בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני, הוא מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. Unending is your love for your people. Torah, mitzvot, laws, and precepts you have taught us. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. Your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. And in order to spare me a little more singing, would you join me in the translation of the V'ahavta? You shall love Adonai your God with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your being. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you dedicate yourselves to your God. I, Adonai, am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, Adonai, am your God. Emet v'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu v'ein zulato. Yisrael Amo. True, enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good, and beautiful is this eternal teaching. This truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt. You set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud, raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing, and like Moses and Israel, we sing this ancient song of rejoicing. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Malchutacha ra'u vanecha, bokeach yam lifnei Moshe, ze li'anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. This night, grant that we lie down in peace, Adonai, our God, and tomorrow raise us up, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague, keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful Sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. We continue now with tefillah. Once again, if able, please rise. Adonai sefatati tahu via vita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Hasteavot, V'imot, Umevi Gulam, Livnei V'neihem, Laman Shemo Be'ava, Melech Ozer, Moshiach Umagim, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Abraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Michaye HaKol Etarav L'Hoshia, Michalkel Chaim V'Chesed, Michaye HaKol V'Rachamim Rabim, Tzomei Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim emunato lishenei afan mitamocha b'agurut umidomela melech mimini dumekayim umatzniach Yeshua v'neimanatal kayotam Baruch atah Adonai Michael Ha'o Atah Kadosh V'Shim HaKadosh U'Kedoshim V'Kol Yom Yechavim Chasela Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated, everybody. And I don't know, I think we're all familiar with each other enough that we can do Yismechu V'Malachutacha and execute it with some aplomb. So let's go ahead and do that on the middle of page 21. Yismehu v'malachutacha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. Yismehu v'malachutacha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. An mekadashei shavi Shabbat kulam yisbeu v'tangumitu v'cha Shabbat. Yismehu v'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. Yismehu v'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat chemdat ya'amim oto karata Shabbat. Yismehu v'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. Hem yishehu v'malachutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei honeg Shabbat. Zecher Lema'aseh v'reshit Shabbat. Zecher Lema'aseh Lama'aseh v'reishi Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha. Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg Shabbat. Those who keep the Shabbat and call it a delight shall rejoice in your kingdom. The people who sanctify the seventh day shall be gladdened by your goodness. This day is your desire, sanctified and blessed by you, the most precious of days, a memorial to the work of creation. Right say, Adonai, our God, show favor towards your people and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable to you, for you alone do we hold in reverence. Modim. And we give thanks to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation for all generations. And so we thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. All right, we're going to finish out with Shalom Rav, and then we get a few moments for our own silent offerings and prayers, and we'll move on to Oseh Shalom after that. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. V'tov einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol eit u'v'chol sha'ah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Tasim le'olam. Tasim le'olam. Say shalom bimroha, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'hibru amen. May the one who makes peace above, make peace descend on all of us. On all of us and Israel, and let us say Amen. O say Shalom, B'Roma, Huya say Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Amen. All right. So many people define freedom of the pulpit in different ways. For some of us, we get to give overtly political speeches. For others of us, we simply say that the Board of Governors doesn't have any say over the topics that we can pick. But for me, at least this week, it means talking about Linda Ronstadt. All right. No, this is not sheer coincidence or arbitrary in any way, because Linda Ronstadt has been in the news. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with lovely Linda, the queen of rock music, she has been afflicted with a debilitating neurological disease that has not allowed her to sing for some time. But her music was just incorporated into a very popular, widely praised episode of The Last of Us. And in it, we hear the song repeated long time, one of the beautiful torch songs that she's known for. And everyone is talking about it in the same way they were talking about Running Up the Hill with Kate Bush back in last year, maybe it was, with Stranger Things. So, this is a good television show is the moment to revive maybe a dormant career or a classic song and bring it back to the attention. Now, I love A Long Time. I love all of her torch songs. I really sort of fell into the orbit of Linda Ronstadt with her album Heart Like a Wheel. And I think that particular torch song was probably my first really great love. There's nothing more than feeling maudlin when you're a teenager and sitting there and listening to Linda Ronstadt sing while you gaze at her face on the cover of the album. It just does everything for a teenage boy. But in any case, Linda is not one of those people who composes. She's not a writer song, singer kind of person like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or something like that. She's mostly an interpreter. And she's very good at taking other people's music and turning it into her own piece of music, singing it in her own particular way. Which brings me to another important song that she took from someone else and made into a beautiful song. And that, it was a very nice song, but it was a reggae song. And she made it her own, and it's called Many Rivers to Cross. And I'm most familiar with Many Rivers to Cross because I saw the Jimmy Page reggae crime film, The Harder They Come. You watched it in the mid-'70s, and you went to the repertory film place and got to see two reggae films in a piece and things like that. And then she did her own interpretation on an album. I think it was Prisoner in Disguise. And actually, at that point, I was pretty much engaged with Jewish life. And Many Rivers to Cross, for me, felt like a very Jewish song, which is not terribly surprising. Reggae culture really models itself on the Jewish experience. So the rhetoric of exile and journey. Jimmy Page wrote this song while he was struggling as an immigrant in Great Britain, trying to make a musical career for himself. And Linda interpreted that. And I always felt like it had a great Jewish theme, except for the whole thing about the White Cliffs of Dover. That just seems like a bit of a distraction. But otherwise, it felt very Jewish to me. And it's really a great soundtrack for our Torah portion this week. Our Torah portion this week is Bishalach, and it tells the story of our going forth from the land of Egypt. Pharaoh has released us finally after all these sanctioning plagues, and we are on our way. And it then goes on to take us to the edge of the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea as it's been misinterpreted, but the Sea of Reeds, basically a glorified swamp. And there, as Pharaoh changes his mind and pursues us, God does something miraculous and parts the waters. We are able to cross on dry land and then brings them back to engulf Pharaoh's army. And a fabulous miracle is wrought. Micha Mocha is sung, and it's the birth of a nation. So, but what I really want you to think about is everything surrounding this story. Let's begin with the thought. I'm going to put it in a modern context. We came to ancient Egypt, as we would say today, as economic migrants. We came because there was a famine in the land of Canaan, and we were able to come down to Egypt, a place that had more resources and was able to employ us. Then came Pharaoh's reaction as we grew into a greater people. It was really Pharaoh's great replacement theory, that he was afraid that somehow these foreign people, these innately foreign people, constituted a threat, a kind of invasion, even though he invited us here, and we were reduced to harsh labor. Now, in this week's Parsha, we are departing, this time as refugees. We came to Egypt by invitation. Eventually, we would enter other territories in our journey: Arad, Bashan, Heshbon, Edom, Midian, and Moab, without invitation. It's really every immigrant's story is told in the context of our own story. It's a universal story. It's the story in a few verses about how we, the Jewish people, encapsulate the human migrant story, a story that really is as old as humanity, older even than the Torah itself. And then, to complicate things, 2 millennia later, in 1648, came the Treaty of Westphalia. I know you're all familiar with the Treaty of Westphalia. And with it, at least in Europe, came the concept of sovereign borders, the idea that a state was entitled to control its borders. Not much, however, changed outside of Europe. And both empires like Russia, China, the Ottoman Empire, as well as geographically sprawling nations like Brazil or the United States or Canada, simply didn't have the means or the desire to assert modern border control over their perimeters until very recently. My own family embodies this shift. My father's side of my family came to America before there was such a thing as legal and illegal immigration. My mother, on the other hand, had to come with a passport and a green card in hand. And this tension in America between the human need to migrate, the human tradition of migration, and a state that needs to control its border continues to vex us humanly and politically as a nation. As Americans, we grapple with how to rationalize our inadequate immigration laws to control our borders and to allow the kind of immigration that, quite honestly, has supercharged American growth and success since before the founding of our republic. That's when my father's family got here. I, for one, understand both the need to control borders and the desire for boundary control. We all need boundaries. Both arguably are Jewish values. But whatever combination of these two values each of us embraces, there is one value the Torah endorses emphatically: compassion, empathy, and even love for the aliens who come to us. And by emphatically, I mean this: the commandment to care for the stranger is mentioned more times than any other commandment in the Torah, even more than the command to love God. We say, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, but That only gets reiterated about 4 or 5 times in the entire Torah. On the other hand, the idea that we are supposed to love and care for the stranger appears far more often. God comes second. In a very real sense, the Jews reject the media campaign, put God first. All right? We are supposed to take the foreigners as priorities. According to the Talmud, Eliezer the Great stated, the Torah warns 36 times, and there are those who say 46 times, not to oppress the stranger. I have never counted them, by the way, but at least in the 30 area, I think is probably about right. The decree is articulated both as a positive commandment, you shall, and a negative commandment, you shall not. For example, you shall not wrong or oppress the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Exodus 22:20. The stranger who resides with you shall be with you as native born, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Leviticus 19:34. And then you too must love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Deuteronomy. Variations on this appear in 4 of the 5 books of Moses. Is there a greater imperative than this? We are from the time of Moses to the 21st century, the archetypal migrant / refugee / immigrant / asylum seeker / alien / illegal / legal person. Lest we forget, we declare to each other every Pesach, my father was a wandering Aramean. Even the name that we use for our people, one of the names that we use for our people is known, exemplifies this. The very word Hebrew, ivri, comes from the verb avar, to pass over or to cross over, making us the people of boundary crossing. That's how we've defined ourselves. So as we Jews daily remind ourselves of our migrant past, this week, in all our Torah study, in our prayers, in our history, in our own very memories, let us also heed the Torah and strive for tolerance, for compassion, and indeed for love for the modern migrants among us, both in our personal encounters and in the policies our nation advocates. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So, do I have an officer to do announcements? Oh, a voice in the wilderness cries out. What does he cry? He says, it's me.
That's right. That's right.
There we go. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any Linda Ronstadt or Jimmy Cliff references, but I'll do my best.
If everybody wants to talk about Linda at the Oneg, I'm more than happy.
So we just have a few announcements for this evening. We have the Rough Riders coming up the opening weekend. We've arranged to have a section for Congregation Kol Ami at the game. And so if you're interested in joining us in our own section, please check out the tickets on the website. You can get them there. And like I said, they've got a section reserved just for Congregation Kol Ami. Have you ever wanted to get Mahjong? We're looking at setting up a class on teaching people to play Mahjong. Molly Marks has volunteered to run that and to teach everyone. They're looking at Tuesday or Wednesday nights. Right now, they're not really sure exactly when they're going to do it. They're looking for input. If you are interested, please look on the website. You can get Molly's email address there, drop her a note, and let her know you're interested so that we can try to get these started. If you know of anyone who is interested in the introduction to Judaism, we've actually, for the first time that I remember since I've been here, we're going to have 2 courses going at once. We have so many people interested right now. So we're starting a second session, which will run Thursday night, starting next Thursday night. And it'll run for 13 sessions. The sign up is on the website. So if you haven't already and you're interested, please go out there and get signed up for that. The CKA Book Club has updated its list. They meet the third Tuesday of each month here at CKA and discuss the books and many other things that go on. It's a great organization, probably one of our longest running groups here. And so I really encourage you to join them. And like I said, we just published the book list for 2023, and it's out there on the website. If you look under community and affinity groups, it'll have the whole listing for you there. And that's all of our announcements for tonight. On every Shabbat, we like to say a Mishnah Bayrak for anyone in need of healing. And so let me go around the room and see if there's anyone who would like to add a name to the Mishnah Bayrak list.
Laura Johnson.
Okay.
Kathy Pollicott.
Mary Owens.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to remove both of my people from the list.
All right, well, that's good too. Thank you. All right, my dear. Thank you. All right, and we would also like to include Joyce Bloom, Natalie Bovino, Karen Brown, George Cavanis, Karen Cohen, Sandy Cook, Mark Davis, Nancy Inneman, Harry Inneman, Francine Feingold, Joseph Friedman, Michelle Griffith, Carol Jones, Molly Kalig, John Kaufman, Deb Kaufman, Lauren Koenig, Alex Koenig, Gianna LaMonica, Deb Ledden, Matt Levine, Phyllis Lorielli, Paxton Look, Jane Mobley, Paul Redwood Jr., Helen Rubel, Adrian Sandler, Dale Seaver, Happy Waterman, Karen Weinstein, Barry Weinstein, and Tom Wolf. So if you'd please join me now in the Mishnah Bayrak. Mishnah Bayrak Avotenu Makor Habraka Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberak imotenu Mikor habracha imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you, my friend. So, she avoided having to do anything with lighting candles, but she's still one of my favorite Jews. So I'm going to make Paige come on up here and open the ark with me. We're turning to page 82. And I invite you all to please rise. Just have to open. Aleni l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol la'teir la'yotzer b'reshit v'lo asan k'goyei haratzot v'lo samayu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam Eloheinu kahem v'gorami k'chol ha'amunah Kori, Shakari, Modi, Lifnei Melech, Mahei Hamani, Hakarim Baruch, She'unoten Shamayim v'yoser haaretz, U'moshav Yikaro b'shamayim imam, U'shkinatu zo, V'go Meroni, Hu Eloheinu Eino, Emet Malkeinu Efesu Lato, Hakatu Betorato, V'yadata Hayom, V'hashevota El Valeh, Hi Adonai Hu Elohim. בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אילו. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. The leaves fall as from afar. They fall with slow and lingering descent. And in the night, the heavy earth too falls from out of the stars and into the solitude. And thus all must fall. This hand of mine must fall, and lo, the other one. It is the law. But there is one who holds the falling infinitely softly in his hand, in her hands. And so it is we take time now to recall with love and appreciation the names of those we have lost, whether it be recently or as an anniversary of this week. As we think about them, we meditate upon the meaning of love and loss, life and death. Does anybody here have a Shiva? Is there anybody who's lost someone the last week? Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Here in the congregation, we're observing the Shloshim of Stanley Irwin Berman, the father of Andrew Berman, and Ben Dickerson, the husband of Florence Dickerson. Is there anybody else here who's aware of someone who's died in the past month? For our yard sites, we want to remember these individuals connected to our community: Mel Brooks, Helen Caspin, Murray Glick, Ruth Mintz, Iris Phillips, Bert Ring, Vera Robinson Neff, Shirley Sarlin, and Linda Spiegel. Is there anyone else here observing a yard site? Anybody else who's lost someone at this time in the years past? Well, we want to honor all of these names, and we want to also express our support for those who grieve for them by turning together, rising, and turning to page 85. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba be'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael Bagalal Uizman Kariv Yimru Amen. Yehe Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Ulamei Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabak V'yitpa'ar V'yiturmam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalei V'yitalal Shmei D'kudsha B'rithu Le'elam In Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbakata V'nechemata Damiran Be'alma V'yimru Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba Mim Shemaya V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Yosei shalom bimromav. Uyasei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. So, we have wonderful soloists who do many things for us, but sometimes they may feel a little bit more intimidated by some of the longer compositions, musical compositions in our tradition. And since they're not here, I'm going to do what I want to do. All right. So everybody prepare yourself for singing Heat Wave, Linda Ronstadt. No, we're not going to sing Heat Wave. We're going to sing Adon Olam on page 93. And just as we did with Yismachu, we're going to sing my favorite version, which is a call and response. So you just repeat everything that I do. All right. So Adon Olam, page 93 has the Hebrew text. The transliteration is over on page 94. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא. והוא היה, והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל, יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שלו להכבירה אדון עולם, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל, יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור עברי ועת צרה אדון עולם, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אכרע אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל, יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, בידו אף כדרוכי, בעת תישן בעירה אדון עולם, ואם רוחי גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל, יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.